What is up, Bodyweight exercise fans? Today is episode 3 of why people stop gaining muscle with calisthenics. In episode 1, I gave you a quick overview of the top 3 reasons. In episode 2, we talked about muscle tension and how you can increase it by using mind-to-muscle cues. I gave you 3 tips using push-ups as an example. And today, we'll be talking about training volume and how getting too much of it or the lack of it can cause plateaus with bodyweight exercise. Let me first though finish my morning workout, and after that I'll be continuing this video. Okay, so just finished working out, and before we dive into training volume, dosing, how much it is exactly that you need when you're a beginner, calisthenics trainee, and intermediate and more advanced, in order to keep progressing, let's first of all specify what training volume is. Simply said in a few words, training volume is the total amount of sets, reps, and intensity that build over a specific time span. I find it most practical to measure this over a week, so measuring your weekly training volume. And a key conclusion that research has made the last years is that increasing training volume as you progress over time is key for maximizing muscle growth. Besides quality, meaning using good form and mind-to-muscle cues that maximize muscle tension, quantity is also equally important. This means that once you're past your beginner gains, if you want to keep on getting stronger, to keep on building muscle, and to keep on improving your physique, you have to put in more and more work as time goes by. This is why keeping track of weekly training volume is key if you want to keep on progressing in the long run. Of course, this doesn't mean that the more you train, the merrier. Typical mistake that most of us do when we're young. I remember myself overtraining and not having a lot of results to show for when I was younger. But nowadays, I always think that if I could only be a little bit more smart and strategic, I'd be so much more far ahead. But nonetheless, if you've been stuck for a while with your muscle gaining goals, with your physique goals, and you are looking for a way to break through that plateau, experimenting with adding a little bit of extra volume is always a good idea. I'm a firm believer that if you want to get the best results possible when it comes to aesthetics and hypertrophy through bodyweight exercise, your core approach should be getting as strong as possible at all basic movement patterns. This is why when it comes to tracking training volume and calisthenics, I do so by adding up sets according to the following categories. Category number 1 is upper body pull. Our second category is upper body push. Our third category consists of lunges and squats. Our fourth and last category revolves around the core and any exercise that targets it. Now, before I start throwing numbers at you, keep in mind that although there's a decent amount of research when it comes to lifting weights, training volume, and hypertrophy, and how those all correlate, there's not a lot of research when it comes to this topic regarding strict calisthenics. That aside, I've done a lot of personal research the last 7 years. I've been obsessed with calisthenics programming. I've been training a lot of people, and after studying all the research there is on lifting weights, hypertrophy, and training volume, I've taken a lot of this and I've adjusted and adopted it to calisthenics. It has taken some fine tuning and some adjustments along the way to make the numbers work, but I do find that most of the numbers that I'll be recommending next do work really good for most people. I would say up to 95%. Starting with complete beginners, during your first 1 to 2 weeks, you don't want to overdo things. You always want to start gradually and keep your training volume per category from 8 to 10 sets, and ideally spread these over 2 to 3 workouts. Next, if you've been training consistently for about 6 weeks, you are now more of an intermediate trainee. And for the following 6 weeks, you can increase your training volume up to 14 sets per category. And another good idea here, somewhere in the middle of this phase, is to start incorporating some more specialized training, things such as supersets, ladders, and stuff like that. We'll talk more about these in one of the following videos. And finally, if you've been training consistently for more than 20 weeks, I consider you more of an advanced trainee. Of course, there are a lot of levels of advanced trainees, but here your training volume can be somewhere around 18 sets and above that. Of course, this doesn't mean that you'll train all year round with such a amount of training volume. You want to have periods where you cycle things, you have more relaxed periods, more maintenance periods where you take things a little bit easier. And you want to have also peak periods that you take your training volume up to 18 sets or even higher. Again, specialized training methods are good to incorporate here as well. And finally, before I end this video, a very important thing to keep in mind is that these numbers are not set in stone. They're just meant to serve you as guidelines, especially during your the beginning of your calisthenics journey. And after that, the more you gain experience, you can start experimenting and adjusting and fine-tuning your workouts, based on your experience. See what works best for you. There are people that are blessed with amazing genetics and can handle a lot more training volume. There are people that would benefit from trimming down their training volume. So keep all that in mind. And now next time, keep on training.